I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
I want to thank the sex worker community.
Wow, 3 weeks ago it was a bunch of hoes, and now it's a community.
One Bill Maher returns to the spotlight, taking aim at Hollywood's fixation on catchphrases and surface-level activism.
The question is, if it's such an important liberal cause, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Or 20? Or in 1975? Maybe I should be copying an attitude with you.
On a fiery episode of Real Time, Bill Maher took aim at Hollywood's growing fixation on progressive trends. From buzzwords to surface-level activism, he called out what he sees as distractions from real issues. So what's the latest wave hitting Tinseltown? And how sharp was Maher's critique? Let's break it down.
Gotta give me more than a week to get used to a new word, or phrase, or name for what we call something. We did this with homeless until it was unhoused. We did this with illegal alien until it was undocumented migrant.
Maher opened by pointing out Hollywood's tendency to rename everyday terms in an effort to sound more progressive. But the meaning? It stays the same. It's a polished rebrand without real impact. More style than substance. Now let's move past the wordplay and get to the real moments. Roll the clip.
Now we're doing it with prostitute. I don't know if you saw the Academy Awards this year, but I'm just going to say it. Whores are having a moment.
Sees it as another surface-level change that avoids addressing real issues. With his usual sharp wit, Maher takes aim. Let's look at a few Hollywood clips that helped spark the conversation.
I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community.
I want to thank the sex worker community.
But changing labels doesn't change the reality. It's symbolic, not real progress. Bill Maher isn't playing along. His take is sharp, honest, and right on point.
It's kind of funny how it's only been a few weeks and I already know people who, if you use the word prostitute, they will glare at you like you forgot a reusable bag at Whole Foods. But
Six, and that's the core issue. Terms like streetwalkers are now often avoided, even when referring to real situations. But instead of addressing the deeper problems, the focus shifts to changing the words. It's more about image than impact. This surface-level empathy often misses the real struggles, and Bill Maher is calling out the disconnect between polished language and meaningful action.
the question is, if it's such an important liberal cause, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Or 20? Or in 1975? Maybe I should be copying an attitude with you.
Really changed the role itself or just our sensitivity? It's a setup for one of Maher's signature punchlines, and when it lands, it challenges the narrative and leaves the room in stunned silence.
2 years ago, the New York Post ran a story about a paramedic who couldn't make ends meet and so started an OnlyFans to pay her bills, and then got publicly shamed for it. And Congressman Ocasio-Cortez tweeted in her defense, "Sex work is work." Well, first of all, sex shouldn't be work at all.
Ocasio-Cortez is a prominent voice in progressive politics, always in the spotlight and ready with a headline. From advocating for immigration reform to challenging capitalism while promoting her own merchandise, her approach often draws mixed reactions. Critics argue it's more style than substance, leaving many to wonder when bold messaging will translate into lasting change.
Moreover, saying sex work is work, it's kind of like saying slavery is work. Yes, strictly speaking, but is that really the message we want to be sending? A few weeks ago, I did a new rule here where I mentioned all the actresses, 21 in all, who have been nominated for an Oscar, and many of whom have won for playing a sex worker. And tonight, I'd like to apologize to the other 20 who were nominated, who I didn't even have time to put on the list. Really, I swear to God, there's 20 more hooker portrayers who were nominated, and some other big star hooker portrayers who didn't even get a nomination. Please, wouldn't you take a moment to honor them all?
And Bill Maher didn't hold back when discussing the term sex worker. In his usual direct style, he challenged the idea that a new label changes the harsh reality. Many in that world face poverty, abuse, or pressure, not empowerment. His point was clear. Softening the language doesn't fix the problem. It risks hiding it.
Leads us to this question. Why? Why so many hookers? You know, myths and dreams, but also movies, tell us what's really going on in our minds. Why this? If half of all male stars in Hollywood had at one point played a porch pirate or a used car salesman or a three-card money dealer or a lobbyist, something really sketchy, would we not wonder about that? What does it mean? Does it mean that we're still locked into the Madonna whore complex? It would seem so, since there's 1,000 movies about whores and Madonna has never made a good one.
Maher raises a sharp point. Why does Hollywood often portray women in extremes, either flawless or broken? And why are awards so often tied to roles centered on pain? Is it bold storytelling, or a reflection of how the industry truly views women? Maher argues it's not real empowerment, just struggle repackaged as progress, a performance of feminism that feels more show than substance.
Honora is a good one. It's a great movie. So is Sean Baker's other movie about a sex worker, Tangerine, and his other movie about a sex worker, Red Rocket, and his other movie about a sex worker, Starlet, and his other movie about a sex worker, The Florida Project. Look, I think Sean is a huge talent, but he does think about whores a lot.
Spot the pattern? Maher shines a light on a disturbing trend. Hollywood's male directors have a curious obsession with prostitution stories, often romanticizing them instead of revealing the grim truth. Wrapped in glossy cinematography and award-bait performances, these films blur the line between awareness and fetishized fantasy. Rather than confronting injustice, they risk commodifying pain for artistic clout. Maher exposes the double standard. Filmmakers preaching progress while cashing in on the very struggles they pretend to condemn.
And honestly, I think whore was a better term, and here's why. You can get so caught up in the virtue signaling that you actually do harm to the cause, and using sex worker makes it sound too benign, like it's a temp job at a call center being done by a woman in a cubicle with a cactus on her desk.
Maher delivers another blunt truth, arguing that rebranding prostitute as sex worker might actually do more harm than good. While the term sounds more dignified, he warns it risks sanitizing a harsh, often tragic reality and presenting it as just another career path. The danger? It may dull the drive for real change. Instead of pushing for escape routes and opportunities, the language shift could make exploitation seem acceptable. Maher takes aim at what he sees as well-intentioned wording that ultimately masks the deeper crisis.
It's not that, and it's not usually the woman's choice to do it. The language may have changed, but the job hasn't. There's a real piece of garbage out there these days named Andrew Tate, and he's the other guy in the news connected to sex workers. Except here's the little difference. He's for exploiting them, and he brags about pimping out, beating, and trafficking and tricking vulnerable women. And while there are Republicans who have come out and said that embracing this piece of shit is a bridge too far, most have not.
The double standards are impossible to miss. Time and again, instead of driving real change, parts of the left seem more invested in rebranding problems with fresh terminology, tweaking language while ignoring the root issues. Whether it's homelessness, immigration, or exploitation, the solutions offered are often symbolic gestures, not practical fixes. Maher cuts through the noise and exposes the hollow empathy behind the buzzwords, because at the end of the day, changing the label doesn't change the reality. If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, be sure to like and subscribe. There's plenty more on the way. Thanks for tuning in.
Leads us to this question. Why? Why so many hookers? You know, myths and dreams, but also movies, tell us what's really going on in our minds. Why this? If half of all male stars in Hollywood had at one point played a porch pirate or a used car salesman or a three-card money dealer or a lobbyist, something really sketchy. Would we not wonder about that? What does it mean? Does it mean that we're still locked into the Madonna whore complex? It would seem so, since there's 1,000 movies about whores and Madonna has never made a good one. A little tip, the time to pay attention is before the election. But yeah, I mean, they are, look, I believe candidates. I just want to be your guide here and tell you what the choices are. Kamala Harris, vice president, will get all in 3 years as vice president. Girls in the press and in politics and in life, and when they smell blood in the water, the lust to finish off a vulnerable person will never be denied. The documentary America's Birding, available on Apple TV. Michael Douglas, like I have to tell you. And he's Puck's chief political columnist and national news analyst for MSNBC and NBC News, John. Yeah, I got bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts. They lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, AKA their supposedly liberal base, could drunk drive with a blood alcohol content of 1 million, doing 200 on a side street and kill a crosswalk of kindergartners and 2 ducks. It's Kid Rock! Chairs the Coalition Natural Allies for a Clean Energy Future, Tim Roth, columnist Pamela Paul. Questions from the people. The people, that's who we care about. The people, this is what they want to know. Fuck my question. How does Kid Rock celebrate Valentine's Day? But he hates kids these days. Not important. They assembled my phone. Donald Trump. He's Jesus in reverse. Other people die for his sins. Are you ready or not? I've been to states where the Republican ads, they don't even mention policy. It's just a guy with a gun. And it came from, you'd stop shitting on your own. Now, right? I have never been a rah-rah America type, and in fact have often made fun of Republicans in the past for being overly sentimental. Right, is it President's Day? All government offices will be closed, although I think that was the plan anyway. Yeah, this is week 4 of Hulk Smash. The administration that dissects a frog with a hand grenade. This is their method. Makes it worse. But that's largely out of our control. What are we going to do? Pass a ballot measure to make sure Putin would be isolated? He's not isolated. He had the BRICS nation. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now 4 or 5 other countries. It's about half the world's population, about 35% of the GDP. He's got North Korean troops in here, religiously unaffiliated. The Supreme Court is 2 Protestants, 1